Live from the bridge at the Launchpad Studios in Huntington, New York, it's Sports Talk New York with your hosts, Mark Rosenman and AJ Carter. Sports Talk New York is sponsored in part by Cardboard Memories, Clearview, Long Island, the law firm of Decolator, Cohen, and DePrisco, the Phoenix Tube Company, PIMS Incorporated, fueling brand performance for 30 years, Prince Associates for all your insurance needs, and Soho Table Hockey. Here are your hosts, Mark and AJ.
And good Sunday evening to you. Always love kicking off a great Sunday block of broadcast shows on the 365 Sportscast Network. We kick it off, followed by BT Talks Baseball, Carpen's Corner, and then Rich Catino's Mets Confidential rounds out the day. So, you know what? Turn down, I know it's a great football game. Turn down the volume, watch us, listen to us. Watch the game in the background. It's all good stuff. It's now time for the Major League Baseball Report with John Coppinger. It's sponsored by Cardboard Memories, which is one of Long Island's most reputable memorabilia retail stores for over 29 years. The owner of Cardboard Memories, Scott Stimmel, is known for his knowledge and savvy of authentic autographs, and he's been featured on HBO Real Sports with Brian Gumbel, as well as the Islander Ranger game. It was a commercial that popped up, kind of freaked me out a little bit. Cardboard Memories possesses the honesty and integrity one would want and need from a memorabilia source. Scott personally works with each customer to ensure they understand the authenticity of each item. Every piece of autographed memorabilia is purchased directly from the source. Cardboard Memories also specialize in custom framing, appraisals, and authentication, and they're always buying collections large and small. Let Cardboard Memories run your next charity fundraising auction. Call them to find out how they can help your organization at no cost. Cardboard Memories is located at 6401 Jericho Turnpike, Comac, New York, 11725. Visit them on the web at cardboardmemories.com or follow them on Facebook or Instagram. All right, it's time now, like we said, for our baseball report. So we bring in John Coppinger, and AJ is with him as well. All right, so right off the bat, it looks like to me that DJ LeMahieu took a hometown discount to sign back with the Yankees. $15 million, a bargain, but the term is something that might have scared off some teams. Maybe DJ was looking for more stability long-term, 6 years. What are your thoughts, Johnny?
Well, I think it was a combination of a couple things. I think DJ did want the security, but also the Yankees wanted to keep the AAV down, the annual value down, to stay under the luxury tax. So I think this was something that both sides were comfortable with. I think a lot of people that I've talked to said that the 6 years is a lot. And certainly signing a 32-year-old to a 6-year deal is very, very risky. But I do think that the Yankees had to do it. You don't want the Yankees to, or the Yankees don't want to send the message that they're going to be like a lot of other teams during this pandemic and being cheap or nickel and dime. You know, they would have had egg on their face if the Dodgers had signed LeMahieu or the Blue Jays had signed him. So I think they'll take the last 3 years of his deal as a loss if they have to, if it'll convince other free agents down the road next year, the year after, that, hey, the Yankees are still the Yankees and I'm going to be able to get a deal done with them if I needed to.
You know, John, I have a different read on this. Rather than saying it was a hometown discount, I think it's a better indication of what the market's like, that he probably shopped around and couldn't get any better. You know, the market's been very slow. Teams have not been wanting to sign big contracts. I think looking at this, not just an indication, well, the length of the contract is one thing for the Yankees, but the dollar figure, I think he gave him a hometown discount. I think that's the best what he could get because the market has gotten really, really dried up.
And the market's going to be dry for a lot of players also. I think that's why you heard the Dodgers rumors. I think the LeMahieu tried to bring in the Dodgers. LeMahieu's agent tried to bring in the Dodgers to kind of scare the Yankees a little bit. But it isn't like the Dodgers really needed to go out and sign a DJ LeMahieu with the amount of prospects that they have and young players that they have. So yeah, I think both sides kind of had to come together and realize that they were the best fit for each other.
Interestingly enough, he was obviously talked about a lot in the Mets Twitter sphere. Another player that was mentioned a lot for the Mets, which seemed to have made sense, but obviously he went to the other side of New York and his New York Yankee in Corey Kluber. So do you think Kluber, not pitching for 2 years now, pretty much, does he come in number 2 behind Cole? And if that's his slot, is Montgomery, Armand, and Garcia enough behind them until Severino gets back?
Well, you got to hope. I don't think that Kluber's a number 2. I don't think you can slot him in as number 2 right away. He's pitched, 10 innings in 2 years?
Yeah.
And he had a very good workout, but I don't think that's enough to say, okay, Corey Kluber, you're the number 2 guy and you're the solid number 2. I think right now, I think he has to be considered a depth guy until he proves otherwise in major league games that he still has that stuff that he brought with him to the workouts. I don't know if the Yankees rotation is enough. It's adequate. You've got 5 competent starters. Well, you got Garrett Cole, who's not much more than competent, and you've got 4 starters that could get the job done. But there are a lot of question marks. So I think what the Yankees are counting on is 1 or hopefully 2 of those players taking the next step, or in Kluber's case, proving that he's healthy for the Yankees to be considered to have a formidable rotation.
Well, the question is, with Kluber signing, what do they do with Tanaka? Do they go after him? Do they let him go? He's somebody who could be probably number 2 in the rotation if he goes back to his previous form. But, having signed Kluber, does that preclude them signing Tanaka to still go after him?
Well, I think they could still sign Tanaka and Kluber becomes depth, or Herman becomes depth for sure. Kluber could, not Kluber, Tanaka could bring the Yankees that stability that they need. But Tanaka could always go back to Japan. That's been a huge rumor out there that he's going to re-sign with a Japanese league team. So I think the Yankees need to prepare for that. I think they have prepared for that. You keep your fingers crossed if you're a Yankee fan that Tanaka wants to come back. But at this point, I don't know if they could truly count on that.
All right, Johnny. Hopefully next week we might be speaking about a new pitcher with the New York Mets and the bullpen, Brad Hand. We'll talk more about that next week because that will probably come into focus, and maybe another outfielder for the Mets. John Coppinger heard here each and every week. We're going to take a quick break, and on the other side, we'll bring in Russ Cohen with the Hockey Report. Keep it tuned right here.
Decolator Cohen & DePrisco, LLP, is pleased to introduce their website, policeofficersrighttosue.com, as an educational and informative site designed to instruct members of the law enforcement community of their civil rights in line-of-duty accidents. Many law enforcement members are not aware of their rights to sue and fail to bring lawsuits within a specific time frame, thereby forfeiting their ability to seek rightful compensation against those parties that cause officers to be injured. PoliceofficersRightToSue.com provides successful past results of line-of-duty lawsuits. These examples range from officers being provided with inadequate equipment, RMP accidents, slip and falls, and station house mishaps. If any law enforcement member has a question regarding a potential lawsuit, they can contact DCD at policeofficersrighttosue.com or at 1-800-901-1LAW. That's policeofficersrighttosue.com or 1-800-901-1LAW.
This is John Matlack of the 1973 National League champion New York Mets, and you're listening to Sports Talk New York with Mark and AJ on 365 Sportscast Network.
And welcome back. Hope you're enjoying the show. We got a great show on tap for you. Russ Cohen is going to be here in a second with the NHL Report, and Willie O'Ree will be joining us in a few minutes as well. It's time now for the NHL Report with Russ Cohen. It's sponsored by our friends over at Soho Table Hockey. What's table hockey, you say? Some of us might have grown up with the rod hockey or bubble hockey or even air hockey tables. Soho Table Hockey has embraced the nostalgia of those old top table games and designed a whole new board for the future, handcrafted with designer woods, state-of-the-art playing surface, unbendable rods, energy-absorbing walls. This is a table hockey game that players aged 8 to 80 can enjoy. Even better, the exceptional quality and design allows the game to stand up to the intensity of tournaments, which is why Soho Table Hockey is the #1 choice of championship players throughout North America. Visit SohoTableHockey.com to learn more and start your order on a custom game. You can choose your wood, a center ice logo, and even the team matchups. Go ahead, drop the puck. You'll love Soho Table Hockey so much you won't be able to stop playing. Hey, Russ, how you doing?
Good, Mark. How are you?
Pretty good. So big bounce back performance by the New York Rangers. Obviously, for the Islanders, you get a goalie change at the last minute. Can't, help that much. But, Coach Quinn laid down the law and his team responded. He benched one of their top defensemen in Tony DeAngelo after a really bad double minor in the first game of the season. You thought he sat for 11 minutes. You thought maybe he might put him in the lineup. He put Smith in. And, the team responded. What do you make of the way the team responded? Sometimes a coach, that's kind of gutsy early in the season, because if they come out with the next performance kind of flat, that sends a message to management.
True, but I did think they came out with their hair on fire. And interestingly enough, I think because D'Angelo not only had the penalty, but he slammed the door, I think that really pissed off Quinn. I do. I think that's what it was, sort of like, you know what? He can't have an attitude here. It's his fault. And I think he proved something to the team, Quinn, because I think we all felt like that was a pretty horrible performance in the first game, but a great performance by the Islanders. And you knew it would be somewhere in between. I do think the Islanders were taken a little by surprise with the Varlamov situation. But again, Sorokin's a pro. He should be able to come in and not have a problem. A couple of those goals weren't his fault, but a couple were. And that's, again, there is always an adjustment period for any goalie coming to North America from overseas. And so I felt like there was that. I felt like Panarin decided he wasn't going to be denied. And I also liked what Panarin did as far as taking leadership on the ice. Just because David Quinn said, hey, Lafreniere is the right wing. He's never played right wing. He's an 18-year-old. I like the fact that Panarin instantly went to that side and they sort of switched and was doing that a lot to take the heat off the kid. That was smart.
Russ, the goalie switch came because Varlamov came up with an injury, and during the game, the Islanders lost some of the defense corps. Same thing, injury. Is this a function of having a shorter camp, having no preseason games, and what's going to happen to think with the Islanders and around the league in terms of injuries because of the no preseason games and the short camp?
Oh, it's going to be a problem. I mean, I've been watching some games where, certain guys look gassed, mid-game, and then they get it back. So there are going to be injuries. There's definitely, the Varlamov injury to the throat was freakish, but there were going to be, lesser, like Couturier got injured, one shift in, second game. There's going to be more injuries like that because guys aren't used to being hit. They're still getting into condition. And yeah, teams, they just have a 6-man taxi squad. That's it. So I think teams are not going to run short, but I think they're going to run right to the limit at times for some of these games due to COVID and injuries.
It's interesting. You take a look at the dynamic and the makeup of the league, some of the young players that some of the newer hockey fans want to see, but yet the first weekend, big game, afternoon game was the 53rd matchup of Sidney Crosby and Alexander Ovechkin. Crosby holding the edge in both scoring and team victories. Is that still the number one matchup in the NHL?
No, I don't think so.
Why, though? I
think in NBC's mind it is, but I don't think it is in real life.
But you take a look at those two players, and they come in at the same time. Both look when they were fighting for the cups and such. It's just amazing that how long they've been in the league and how many times they've met. And that wasn't the 53 times. They've also met 25 games in the playoffs. So, it's an awful lot of time between those two. But it was a pretty good game. The Penguins do not look to me that they're going to have adequate goaltending. As good as they are up front, I don't know if they're going to be able to hang in this division with that goaltending. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of, Jerry maybe not being 100% ready or not being a true number one. Like they were rolling the dice on that because they didn't want to pay Murray or couldn't pay Murray. But also their defense isn't very good either. Like, they basically took Matheson off the ice and they gave some sort of reason. But I think they did that because I watched them 2 games straight in Philly and he's chasing the puck every play. He's never been a good defensive player. So I think right now Pittsburgh does have a big problem. If I were looking for a matchup, I would go, McDavid against McKinnon and I would make sure I have it on TV. But that's just me.
It's also interesting, the fact that the two studio broadcasters who, their NHL careers are about 20 some odd years apart, both actually played against Zdeno Chara. It's just phenomenal. Yeah. Chara's, you forget that he played for the Islanders. You forget that, he was part of that initial trade, that the Islanders are still paying Yashin, I believe. So it's really wild. Lastly, there is a name out there that has been rumored for trades because he actually demanded a trade, and that's Pierre Luc Dubois. Here, lots of Ranger fans are saying, go out and get him. But right now, the Canadiens, Jets, Kings, and Flames are the teams that are most teams you hear most noise about. Where do you think he ends up?
I think it will either be the Kings or the Canadiens, and I think they'll try and send him to the Kings so it doesn't affect them for the year. The Kings are loaded with centers, so I don't think they would give up Turcotte, and I don't think they would give up Byfield. I do think they might give up Gabe Vilardi, who could play center or wing, and give other things too. I think that would be a start of a very good trade, and I think that's a good way to go. I know they were asking for Suzuki from the Canadiens, and I don't think the Canadiens will do it. Again, the Canadiens are tight to the cap, so that's another thing where the Kings probably have the cap space. The Canadiens don't, so they're going to have to take some cap back to do it. So then you have to put somebody else in the deal to balance it out. So I think it's easier to do it with the Kings, and I could see it happening for them. And if it does, then that might speed up their rebuild.
Awesome, Russ. Thanks so much. Russ Cohen here each and every week with the Soho Table Hockey Report. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side, we're going to talk about the Brooklyn Nets big acquisition with Chaim Tauber, so keep it tuned right here. If you're a company looking to increase your visibility, to make sure your promotional materials get packaged in the most attractive way and distributed most efficiently, then you need to call in PIMS. Whether you're launching a new product and need to assemble customized influencer packages or looking for a more efficient way to manage your inventory and collateral, PIMS involvement helps maximize the impact of your brand's performance. For more than 30 years, PIMS has been helping companies get their message out to the right people, offering personalized distribution services and full-scale inventory management solutions. PIMS works its magic on 3 continents, backed by 350,000 square feet of warehouse space. If you're looking for experience, PIMS is it. They've shipped more than 13 million packages and elevated more than 8,000 brands. Want to know more? Check them out on the web, PIMSinc.com. That's PIMSinc.com, and read testimonials from their satisfied clients. That's PIMS, the first name in marketing support.
Hi, this is Kenny Albert, and when I'm not calling a game for the Rangers or the Knicks, I'm listening to Sports Talk New York with Mark Rosenman and A.J. Carter.
And welcome back to Sports Talk New York. Mark Rosenman, A.J. Carter with you this Sunday evening. Maybe Kenny Albert would rather go over to Brooklyn and call their games. We say are certainly a much more exciting team with the addition of one of the guys I've been talking about on this show for many years, one of the most exciting players in basketball, and that's James Harden. You know, his first game lived up to the hype, 32 points, 14 assists, 12 rebounds, 4 steals. He became the first player in NBA history to post a 30-point triple-double in his debut with a new team. He rekindled his chemistry with Kevin Durant, who, you know, the two of them combined for 74 points, 19 assists, 16 rebounds. They rekindled that chemistry, but I'm just wondering, when Kyrie Irving comes back, is that become combustible?
It's a good question, and the truth is it's going to be a wait-and-see thing. Kyrie Irving, again, on paper, in terms of the intangibles, he's a good guard. He's got incredible ball skills. In terms of what he brings to a locker room, yeah, he's combustible. He's not an easy guy to get along with, per se. Though a lot of the players who have been in a locker room with him say they like him. Obviously, players tire of answering the same questions, particularly as odd a question as Kyrie Irving normally brings up or involves the team in. It's not something, especially when you consider that Kevin Durant was somebody who wanted to shy away from the media attention of the New York Knicks spotlight, per se. Now you have James Harden, who, I mean, forget what he brings on the court, but the manner in which he made his way to Brooklyn certainly raises questions. Kyrie Irving, on the court, I think all of them are talented enough to be able to work together, to play cohesive basketball. And to be really honest with you, with 3 superstars of that caliber, even if they go ISO, they should be able to score more often than not. In terms of over the course of the season, how they'll get along and what will happen within their locker room, it's to be determined, but those are a lot of polarizing personalities.
Well, you know, what people seem to have forgotten, all this hype and the excitement over Harden coming to Brooklyn, is that Oklahoma City wasn't big enough for both Durant and Harden. You know, one game is a reunion, a week or a month, you have to see how things start to fray again. They start arguing over, who's not getting the ball enough. And I'm still not sold that this is something that's going to work long term. One game, yeah, they can do it. But let's see what happens gets to game 5 or 6. That's even without bringing Kyrie Irving into the mix.
Right. I mean, and last year you had James Harden and Russell Westbrook, which was not a great fit, but they certainly had moments. Now in OKC, James Harden was coming off the bench. He and Durant and throw Russell Westbrook into that mix. It was, there was one ball to go around, and there was a lot of push and pull, but he wasn't James Harden yet. At this point, you saw the James Harden that I saw yesterday was a James Harden that was pass first. He was looking to dish, and his court vision was unreal. It's something that you don't really appreciate until you see up close and regularly. If you get that version of James Harden, then yeah, this could have real possibilities. If he's willing to settle for 25 or 30 rather than the 40, 50 he can go for, then this could be a match made in heaven. I don't know what James Harden is going to be in, say, 2 weeks, 3 weeks from now, or if he's happy with his numbers tailing off.
Lastly, before we let you go, Clarisse Levert, who went in the trade, and it's interesting because normally these trades are not completed until all players pass their physical. Levert has a fairly serious injury. If he can't go in the future, does the deal have to be, I mean, obviously, Harden's staying, but does the deal need to be reworked? And do the Nets have anything to give of that caliber?
So the deal's already been reworked. The Pacers did receive a bonus second-round pick and cash consideration for the Nets to make up for, to kind of make up for the failed physical or for what they found. Given the extra compensation since over, I don't think that anything would happen to invalidate the trade. The trade has gone through. Harden's already playing in Brooklyn, and all parties seem satisfied, even if Levert's a no-go. But it definitely, it absolutely dampers the return. Certainly for Indiana in terms of the James Harden deal and losing Victor Oladipo, which is going to sting.
Yeah, unbelievable. All right, Kyle, we appreciate it. Kyle Talbot here each and every week with the NBA Report. We're going to take a quick break on the other side. NHL Hall of Famer Willie O'Ree, so keep it tuned right here to Sports Talk New York.
Do you own a business? When is the last time you actually had a visit from or even spoke with your insurance representative? Did your current insurance agency sell to another firm or maybe merge, leaving you without the attention you deserve? Prince Associates is a provider of commercial insurance nationwide and represents some of the finest insurance carriers in the industry. Prince Associates has been representing commercial clients since 1965, and we continue to grow and offer our personal services in a competitive and ever-changing market. If you want back the insurance relationship you deserve, reach out to us, 516-822-6550. That's area code 516-822-6550. And ask for Leith or Craig, or find us on the web at www.princeins.com.
And welcome back to Sports Talk New York. Mark Roseman, AJ Carter with you this Sunday evening. If you're just tuning in, you missed a couple of our beat reporters. Really great stuff. We have a great show still, for the next 40 minutes till the top of the hour. So keep it tuned right here, because joining us now is a man who will celebrate the 63rd anniversary of breaking the NHL color barrier tomorrow. And then exactly 1 month from tomorrow, he will have his number 22 jersey retired prior to the Bruins' February 18th game against the Devils. He's going to be only the 12th player in Bruins team history to have his sweater hung in TD Garden. It is a pleasure to welcome Hockey Hall of Famer, the man the NHL has named an award after, which recognizes the individual who has worked to make a positive impact on his or her community, culture, and society and make people better through hockey. The one, the only NHL Hall of Famer, Willie O'Ree. Welcome, Willie.
My goodness, am I all that?
You're all that and more, for sure, man. No question about it. I've had the pleasure of meeting you, and that doesn't even describe it at all. Let's start at the beginning. Your oldest brother, Richard, known as Coop, was a great athlete in his own right, a regional lightweight, heavyweight boxing champ. He was a huge influence on you when it came to hockey. What did he mean in terms of shaping your game?
He was, I started skating at an early age of 3. I had a pretty good sized backyard, and my dad flooded it, and there was an instant rink. So, I was on the ice every day in the wintertime. I remember skating with the two bladed skates, the runners, and my brother helping me along. I remember pushing a chair and my brother helping me. But then when I was able to start playing organized hockey at the age of 5, my brother was very influential. He was not only my brother and my friend, but he was my mentor and taught me a lot of things that I would need to know if I was going to choose hockey as a sport and as a career. And when I was 14, I decided I wanted to become a professional hockey player. And I asked myself, what do I need to do? Well, I need to stay in school and get an education. But at that time, you know, kids were in my area. There was several sports that you could play if you wanted to. You know, they were there. If you didn't want to play them, you didn't. But I have to always reflect back to some of the things my brother told me, and some of the things that he shared with me on the ice. And he was a defenseman. And I remember sometimes practicing against him, you know, and he'd take me into the boards and good checks, you know. And sometimes tears would come to my eyes. And I said, brother, I says, gosh, why are you hitting me so hard? And he says, well, if you decide to get into pro hockey, he says, you'll be hit a lot harder than this. But things registered in the back of my mind, and they stuck with me all the years that I played. And I really have to say that my brother was very influential on helping me get through the 21 years I played pro.
You know, it's interesting because your road to the NHL was not easy. You're actually kicked off of your high school team. Do you remember the incident and how you felt that day being kicked off that high school team?
Yeah, we were practicing, and you know, I as learned from my brother, I was a physical player. I knew that I was going to get hit, and I learned how to body check. And I was playing against one of my high school players, and he was coming down the head with his head down, and I just stepped into him, you know, clean body check, and he went into the boards and broke his collarbone. And his dad happened to be the coach, and he took me aside and he says, "Well, we don't like this type of play." He says, "I'd rather you not come out anymore." And this is fine. So I left the team there and played with the senior team, the Fredericton Capitals, and played there until I left to go up to Quebec to play junior hockey in 1954.
Amazing. You know, that would have been a series of things you would have to overcome to fulfill your dream, like you said, as a 14-year-old, of making it in the NHL. You mentioned you went through Fredericton's youth ranks to Quebec's top junior league. It was there that your coach, the former New York Rangers star Phil Watson, saw your potential, going as far as to tell you that you had the talent to become hockey's Jackie Robinson. What did those words mean to you at the time, especially given the fact that you actually met Jackie Robinson?
Well, I met Jackie Robinson in 1949, but you know, when I went and played with Phil, as I said, I was a left winger. And, you know, I scored goals, and I was an aggressive player. And so when he told me that, it kind of went in one ear and out the other. All I was interested is just playing hockey that year and trying to be the best hockey player I could be. But I remember what he told me. And then, you know, the second year I went to Kitchener, Ontario to play for the Kitchener-Waterloo Junior Canucks, the farm team of the Montreal Canadiens. And the coach there told me the same thing. He says, Willie, he says, you have the skills and the ability to be your first player in the NHL, your first black player. And again, it really didn't register with me, you know. But later on, when I turned pro with Quebec Aces, Punch Emlek was the coach, and I went there in 1956. I just finished my junior year. Went there and played with Punch, and all of a sudden, you know, he took me aside after I was playing there and told me the same thing. And then all of a sudden, it started to register with me that, geez, if I worked really hard, and I could maybe break the color barrier. But you know, I went to the Bruins training camp in 1957, the first time. Came back to Quebec. I finished with the Aces. 1958, I went to the Bruins training camp again. Then I came back to Quebec and started playing. And then I got the initial call from the Bruins on January the 18th, 1958, to meet the Montreal Canadiens in Montreal to play 2 games against the Canadiens, Saturday night in the Montreal Forum in Montreal, and then Sunday in Boston in the Boston Gardens.
Unbelievable. You know, it's interesting because you're also a very good baseball player, and you know, you had an eye-opening experience to racism in the United States, especially in the South, when you rode a segregated bus to attend a pro baseball training tryout of the Milwaukee Braves in Georgia in 1956. What do you recall about that experience? And I remember in the great documentary about your life, you said it was when you stepped off the bus, when you got home, that was the moment that it solidified, you know, that you were going to be an NHL player.
Yeah, I said, forget about baseball. Well, I was playing baseball in my hometown. I was playing for the Marysville Royals, and I was scouted by 2 scouts from the Milwaukee Braves minor league operation. And they said, Mr. Ree, we'd like to invite you to training camp in Waycross, Georgia. Well, soon they said Georgia. I said, nah. I says, I'm really not interested. He says, well, there's not too many black kids in this area that are getting the opportunity. And they said, I think you should take a little consideration and think about it. And I went home and told my mom and dad, and they said, oh, no. They said, we wouldn't want you to go down south. They said the way blacks are treated there. And then I went and talked with my older brother, Richard. And I says, brother, I've got this opportunity to go down to Waycross, Georgia and try out for the Milwaukee Braves minor league operations. He said, well, how do you feel inside? How do you really feel? I said, gee, maybe you'd like to go down for the experience. He said, well, then go. So I flew into Atlanta and I stepped off the bus and went into the terminal. And the first thing I saw for the restrooms was white only and colored only. And I went into the colored restroom. And then I come out and I had to make reservations for a hotel. So I contacted a black cab driver out in front of the terminal, and I explained my situation, and he took me to an all-black neighborhood. Stayed there overnight. The next day, I'm on the bus for Waycross, about another 3.5-hour bus ride. I get off the bus in Waycross, was assigned a dorm with about 7 or 8 other players of color, black players. Issued uniforms the next day. Started practicing, and I could hear the racial remarks from some of the white players, But it didn't bother me. Just went in one ear and out the other. And a week went by and I'm still there. And on your dorm, there's usually a list. And if your name appears on this list, that means you're going to be sent home. So the second week, into the middle of the second week, I'm still there. And then Friday, I find my name on the list. I go into the office and they said, Mr. Ree, we were impressed with your play, but we think you need a little more seasoning. So we're going to send you back home. Well, outwardly, when I looked at it, it gave me the impression that, oh gosh, I wasn't good enough to play. But inwardly, I was jumping for joy. I said, "Go, God, get back to Frederick and get back home." So I got on the bus, and naturally, blacks had to ride in the back of the bus. So I sit on the back of the bus, and I'm 5 days on the bus. And the only time I got off the bus was to use the restroom or grab a little bite to eat and get back on the bus. And as we're rambling up north, as we're getting further up north, and I start moving up the bus, and I'm sitting in the center of the bus, and I got to Bangor, Maine, and I'm sitting right at the front of the bus. Another 3.5-hour bus ride. I arrive home in my hometown of Fredericton. I stepped off the bus and I said, Willie, forget about baseball, concentrate on hockey. And that's when Punchim contacted me to come to Quebec to try out for his Quebec Aces team in 1956.
You alluded to getting that call to come up to the Bruins, and we need to put it into context because this was just a few short years after the Montgomery bus boycott with Rosa Parks. Even though that Jackie Robinson had broken the color line in baseball 11 years earlier, the Boston Red Sox still did not have a player of color to play for them. So walk me through getting that call and what the significance for you was for breaking that color barrier.
Well, before I went to the Bruins, I was a Montreal Canadian fan because there were only 2 teams in Canada. Back then in the 60s, there was Toronto and Montreal, and then the other 4 teams in the U.S. And some of my friends were Toronto Maple Leaf fans, but I was a Montreal fan. But when I went to the Bruins training camp the first time and met Johnny Busick and Don McKinney and Bravo Horvath and Doug Moens and all those guys, I just felt so at ease. And they took me under their wing, and I had a good training camp, went back to Quebec. And then the second year, I got the invite to come to their second training camp. And I went and, I was met by Milt Schmidt, the coach, and Lynn Patrick, the general manager, treated me real well. Went back and then played again. And then all of a sudden, I felt that I was going to get a call. For some reason, I said, I'm going to get a call. I don't know when, but I think I'm going to get a call. And I got the call. And when I met Lynn Patrick and Milt Schmidt in Montreal just before I went on the ice, they said, Willie, we brought you up because we think you can add a little something to the club. You're a Bruins. Don't worry about anything else that's going on the ice. Just go out and play your game and don't worry about anything else. And basically, that made me feel at ease. So they gave me the confidence that I needed, and I went out and played. We beat Canadians 3-0. We shut them out. I never got any goals, no penalties, no assists, but just beating Montreal in Montreal in the Montreal Forum on Saturday night. It was a feat in itself.
For sure. It's interesting, too, because people don't really realize this. You know, Jackie Robinson had to deal with so much, and it's been well chronicled, and Branch Rickey thought he was the perfect man because whenever anything arose, he wanted Jackie to turn the other cheek. And, you know, people don't realize that it's an awful lot easier to do that in baseball than it is in hockey.
Yeah, it's true.
Can you tell us about that 1961 game in Chicago against the Blackhawks and what you were thinking after Eric Nostrano, slammed your face with the butt end of his stick, knocking out your teeth? What were you thinking when you were sitting in the locker room? I have to imagine, you might have been questioning, do I really need this?
That's right. That's exactly what I thought, Once they stitched me up and plugged my nose up, and I wanted to come out and sit on the bench, but Coach Mill Smith said, Willie said, these fans are becoming too violent. I'm fearing for your safety. He says, I want you to stay in the dressing room. Now, this happened about 6 minutes into the first period, and so I went in and I'm pacing back and forth trying to listen to the store. And I sat down and kind of just meditated for 2 or 3 minutes. I said, Willie, do you really need this? I said, you can go back home. You can play hockey back home. You don't have to be put up with this. And then I told myself, I said, no. I said, if I leave the league, it's going to be because I don't have the skills and the ability to play anymore. I'm not going to leave it because I know there's probably going to be more incidents like this. But I says, I'm just going to go out and stick to playing hockey, work hard, and I think everything else will work out. And basically, that's what happened. But I had several incidents in some of the rinks, but I stayed focused on what I wanted to do. I fought a lot. I fought because I had to, not because I wanted to, but I never fought because of racial remarks or racial slurs. Back then, none of the players wore any helmets, no face shields, no cages, nothing different. So I always kept my stick up to protect myself. And if guys didn't want to drop their gloves, I fought with sticks. But I just told myself, do whatever you need to do to stay in the league and be an asset to the team.
It's amazing because after your 45 games in the NHL, you play in the minor leagues and other pro leagues until you were 43 years old, retiring from the game in 1979. However, you get back into the game in 1996 when Brent McBride, who was the newly appointed vice president of the NHL's diversity program, and Lou Varro, who actually saw you play hockey from USA Hockey, reached out to you. What has your second career in the NHL meant to you?
Oh, it's meant a tremendous lot. It was a second life as far as I'm concerned. I played hockey. I wish I had the opportunity to play in the National Hockey League longer, but things have a way of working out. But I was glad that I played with the Bruins. I love the Bruins fans. I was treated well while I was there. When I scored my first goal there, against the Montreal Canadiens, they gave me a 2-minute standing ovation. But coming back to getting into the league, it's been great. It's been rewarding for me to be able to just give back to the community and give back to the sport what the sport has given me over the 21 years that I played. I felt that I've been blessed, really.
And for people that don't know about his first goal, he does have a little New York tie to it as he beat former New York Ranger head coach John G. Talbot. He blew past him and then scored his first goal against Charlie Hodge. Interestingly, you had this dream of playing in the NHL at age 14. You fulfilled that dream. 69 years later, you are inducted into the NHL Hall of Fame. What was that moment like for you when you got that phone call telling you that you were now in that exclusive club and as an NHL Hall of Famer?
Well, I only played 45 games in the National Hockey League, and I figured guys had to play over 1,000 games to get into the Hall of Fame. But the work that I've done with the youth development and the Hockey is for Everyone program, I guess it meant something to the committee, and I guess letters and there's letters and emails and texts and everything sent and then they took into consideration that I was going in. But I was in my home. My wife was there. Brian McBride was there, and the young lady that does the filming for the documentary, Lawrence Maybe, she was there. My son-in-law was there, and if I was going to get a call, I was going to get the call between 12 noon and 3 p.m. So we're all sitting there, and I've got 3 or 4 phones lined up on the bar, and I'm sitting there, and then I got a call from a young lady that works in New York, Nerva Millord. I've worked with Nerva for 20 years. She called, and I said, Nerva, I can't talk to you right now. I'm expecting another call. I'll call you back. So then the phone rang, and I pick up the phone. I says, hello. And at the other end was the Hall of Fame calling, and they said, Willie, they said you're going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, and I says, oh my God! And Brian was there, and I gave my wife a hug and a kiss, and Brian gave me a hug, and Brian hadn't shed tears in over 25 years, and the tears were coming down his face. And then I called some other close friends, but it was great just to know that I was going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame and be one of be up there and listed with so many great players that I had the pleasure of playing with back in the 60s. And some of the finest players that played in the NHL.
It's an awesome scene in the documentary where Bryant, looks at his phone and it's 11:11. He tells you to make a wish, and then like 30 seconds later, the phone rings. Given the events of this past month in Washington, where many white supremacists were part of the insurrection at the nation's capital, it reminded me that during one of the Willie O'Ree All-Star events in Washington, I think it was 1999, you were targeted by a white supremacist group and actually got threatening letters. It always troubles me that as far as we think we've come as a society when it comes to equality, there's always these major setbacks. So how troubling have the events of this past year been to you, and what's the message you would want people to hear?
Well, first of all, when I got the threat letter, I thought it was a fan letter. I opened it up, and immediately when I saw the contents, I closed it. I called the NHL. They said send the letter back to the NHL. So I wanted to send it back, and then I got another threat letter, and I did the same thing. I didn't know it was a threat letter. I sent it back, but we're in the 21st century now, and I just can't understand some of the things that are going on in this world today after, the wars that have been going on and some of the epidemics that have been going on that we've had to face, and thousands of, soldiers that have been killed in wars. And then looking today, you'd think that we'd learned something over the years, but it just seems that, there is that racism there, and I think it's going to be a long time before we do get any type of learning out of it. I've had racial remarks directed towards me, and I haven't played in the league since the 60s. And people come up to me in stores and gas stations and malls, and made a racial remark, and it's just gone in one ear and out the other. I don't know if they know me or what, but I think I learned a lot from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the comment that he made. He says, don't judge a person by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. And there's a lot of truth to that. Just look at the person as an individual and look towards that. What color they are, and I think that. It's happened in hockey, it's happened in baseball, it's happened in soccer. But it really troubles me when it's happening with these young boys and girls that are coming off the ice. 10, 11, 12, 13-year-olds of boys are coming off the ice because of racial remarks and racial slurs that have been directed towards them. I just can't understand, why people have to look and make racial remarks like that. this day and age, is I think we all try and just live together and try and work together and raise a family and teach the good things to your sons and daughters.
Absolutely. And you've been a role model to so many. And I know that you've personally reached out to a number of young players who have gone through that and talked to them and said, don't let it bother you. And it's just amazing the work you've done as an ambassador for hockey. Granted, they're not going to be fans at the game next month, but
I know.
But what do you think your emotions are going to be? Thinking back to you as a 14-year-old and just standing there as your number 22 gets lifted to the rafters at TD, Garden.
Oh God, it's. I hope we have. I hope we are able to get a turn on this coronavirus thing, and I hope they find. I know there's vaccines out now, and people are getting vaccinated, but I hope it settles down to where we can travel. Because I'd love to go back to TD Garden and see my number raised up into the rafters. A lot of players tried to get me up there in the rafters the years that I played, but it's going to be wonderful. Really, I wish my mom and dad were alive so that they were able to witness it, because they would have been so proud.
They'll see it somehow. That.
Yes.
Willie, like I mentioned to you before, I do have a pretty extensive jersey collection, and I did tell my wife, I've met you a number of times, but then, I said, what, I need to get myself a Willie O'Ree Bruin jersey. So that's definitely my next purchase. I want to thank you so much for your time tonight, but more importantly, thank you for the contributions you've made to the great game of hockey, as well as being such a terrific role model and ambassador for the game.
Oh, thank you. Well, if you do get the Willie O'Ree jersey, just send it to me, and I'll autograph it for you and send it back, and you can add it to your trophy room.
That is a deal for sure. That I will definitely take you up on it for sure. And I look forward to when I'm allowed back to the bridge at Madison Square Garden with the press, because I always like when you're in attendance and being able to come over and say hi. So I look forward to that as well. And congratulations on the Bruins retiring your number.
Thank you so much. Stay safe and be well.
You too, for sure.
Thank you.
The one, the only NHL Hall of Famer, Willie O'Ree. We're going to take a quick break, and on the other side, we're going to have our Capco Nfl Report. Lots to talk about. The Kansas City Chiefs held on. They win without their quarterback, which is a big story. So keep it tuned right here.
The Phoenix Tube Company Incorporated is among the country's leading manufacturers of structural ornamental stainless steel tubing, rectangles, squares, and processed flat bars. The company takes pride in its everyday commitment to quality and customer service. The philosophy of the company has been and continues to be to support the growth of the stainless tube market through distribution and service centers throughout the country. Ornamental and structural stainless steel tubing is used for a wide variety of aesthetic and mechanical products where superior finish and corrosion resistance are required. Some products manufactured include tubing for mirror bracket arms, rails and ladders, washroom grab bars, swimming pool rail products, medical equipment, automotive step bars and trimming, as well as structural framing for food processing equipment. For a quote or for more information on how the Phoenix Tube Company can meet your ornamental and structural stainless steel tubing needs, visit them on the web at phoenixtube.com or call them toll-free at 1-800-526-2124.
And welcome back to Sports Talk New York on the 365 Sportscast Network. I just want to remind everyone to keep it tuned right here, because there's a phenomenal night of broadcast shows on the air tonight. Right after us, BT Talks Baseball. Gabe Kapler and the great Marty Appel join him. Then after that, it's Carpin's Corner, when one of the best hockey writers in the business, Rick Carpinello, joins him. Talk Ranger hockey. After that, we have Rich Catino's Mets Clubhouse Confidential, and then all night long some vintage hockey games, which I know AJ will be. I don't think AJ's sleeping tonight. I think he's going to be listening to all those games. It's time now for the cap.
No, you make a mistake. If I can't sleep, I'll put the games on.
All right. It's time now for the Capco NFL Report with Jay Retcher. Even though it's winter, spring will be here before you know it, and it's time to get your windows and doors ready to let that fresh air in. We need that fresh air for sure, and the bugs and other like nasties out with the Clearview retractable screen. Clearview retractable screen system comes standard with a lifetime warranty, and the patented, interesting, lifetime warranty is now a lot shorter than it used to be about a year ago, and the patented speed reducer so it will not snap back. You get the luxury of a screen door and a sleek, low-profile design without the hassle of a bulky screen door or sliding screen door. Call 631-440-1100 for a free estimate. That's 631-440-1100. Visit them on the web, clearviewlongisland.com. All right, so let's just talk about the game that just completed. Kansas City Chief fans, Chief Nation must have really been on pins and needle. Pat Mahomes, the franchise, goes out, but yet they hold on. What did you see in that game?
Oh, man, unbelievable job by Chad Henne coming in there and really just kind of saving the day for Kansas City. It all comes down to play calling at the end. I mean, holy smokes. Andy Reid, 4th and inches. He goes to shotgun with his backup quarterback. Yeah. Not many people would have done that. But you got to I think a lot of the credit's got to go to Cleveland, man. Browns fans across the country and across the world cannot be upset with that. There's a bright future, and I think they made the right call. And staying with Baker Mayfield and bringing in Kevin Stefanski, I think it's only up from here when it comes to Cleveland. But a really well-played game from both sides.
Obviously looking ahead to next week, you got to worry about the condition of Mahomes. I just go look at the replay 3, 4, 5 times. It wasn't quite a helmet-to-helmet hit, but it was close. But he looked awful coming off the field.
Yeah, anytime you see a guy take a step and then it almost like he crumbles, everybody you kind of hold your breath. Yeah, I mean, you guys know, seeing for more than just football, from hockey, sometimes you see these big hits and you're like, that guy's going to be out for a while, and he doesn't miss a game. And then you see other times where a guy almost like takes a grazing blow and he's out for a couple of weeks. So, yeah, definitely all eyes and ears are going to be peeled on news coming out of Kansas City, because that's a totally different team without him under center.
And he was really beat up as well on top, but before the concussion, his foot, I mean, he was hurting in that game for sure. Taking a look at the game yesterday, it's pretty amazing because everyone is listen, great for the Bills, great for their fans, no question about it. I'm happy for the Bills Nation, but if you take a deep dive into that game, the Ravens dominated the game. They still managed, how they only scored 3 points, tied for the fewest ever in Harbaugh's era, lowest in franchise playoff history. Ravens threw for more yards, 190, than the Bills. They outpossessed the Bills 35 to 24 minutes. They had more first downs, 19 to 17. They had more third down conversions, 7 than the Bills, 4. Baltimore entered Buffalo's 30-yard line on 5 different possessions and only came away with 3 points. You had the 2 missed field goals. You have a 101-yard return for a touchdown on the Lamar Jackson interception, first interception in the red zone in his career. I was not that impressed with the Bills. Am I missing something?
Well, I think you look at the amount of times that they rushed the football, they doubled them up. So, I mean, they're going to probably win the first down battle. They're going to win the time of possession battle when you run the ball. I looked it up before, and I think 34 or 36 times they ran the ball, Baltimore did, and that's twice as many as Buffalo did. So they're going to win the first down battle. You're going to win the time of possession battle. But Buffalo knew going into the game, hey, let's keep everything in front. Let's do a little bit of a rope-a-dope kind of thing and just kind of let them wear themselves out and try to turn Lamar Jackson one-dimensional into a passer. And it worked out. I think it worked to a T for them. Bend but don't break defense. Wasn't the greatest performance from the Buffalo offense, that's for sure. But when you keep a team to 3 points, no matter how you do it, man, you'll take it every day and twice on Sunday. And, hey, they're in the AFC Championship game, so it worked out.
It's funny, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was talking about bend, don't break. What I noticed about the Bills was they seemed to stop Lamar Jackson right when they had to. It wasn't the Lamar Jackson we saw from previous games. So looking ahead to next week, how do you see that game shaping up with hopefully a healthy Mahomes playing against Jared Allen and the Bills team?
I think the big key in that game is you saw Denzel Ward today, and first round pick for the Cleveland Browns, and he tried to do all he could to hold down Tyreek Hill. Much easier said than done. They don't call him the cheetah for nothing. But Tre'Davious White, they're the stud corner for the Bills, and that whole package that they have, they got a lot more studs and a lot more playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. So I think they're going to give Kansas City all that they can handle. And
depending on how healthy Mahomes is, that really could be the difference in the game. I have faith. There's something special brewing with Buffalo, man. And if Mahomes isn't at 100%, that only plays into their hands. I don't know, man. If you would have told me that Mahomes is 100%, I'd say no doubt about it. I think Kansas City wins this game. But, man, there's just something. It's on both sides. I think Buffalo, they know what it takes to win. It doesn't have to be pretty. They just got to get the job done and move on. I don't know, man. I might be leaning towards Buffalo. It just depends what the rest of the news of the week turns out.
All right, we got 1 minute left. So quickly, I know your take on the game coming up. I know who you're going to take, but it's also very difficult for a team to beat a team 3 times in the season. So you might be armed for something. What are you looking at that game? And secondly, next Sunday will mark Aaron Rodgers' 5th appearance in the conference title game. All of his previous 4 have come on the road. He won his first one, 2010 at Soldier Field. He's lost 3 since. What are you looking forward to that game as well?
I think the whole Aaron Rodgers and the quarterback matchup, I think that's really going to be the main thing, regardless if it's Brady or Breeze. But Aaron Jones, to me, is the key. Running the football for the Packers gives them that balance and doesn't let everybody double-team Devontae Adams. But, yeah, this matchup with Brady and Breeze, man, we should be blessed. My buddy from New Orleans says that if Breeze loses this game, it's his last one. So that's the thing I'm looking for. Who turns the football over the most? I think whoever wins the turnover battle wins the game tonight.
All right, Jay, we'll speak to you next week. Great weekend of football, even greater weekend next weekend. All right, so we're going to keep AJ on the phone, right, Mike? Yeah. And by the way, kudos to Mike Capisse, who's people don't realize what it really takes to get this show on the air, on the network, and all the moving pieces. So kudos to you, Mike, for sure. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
And now we bring in AJ with his Sunday papers to round out the show. What do you got, AJ?
All right, well, you're not going to have me sing a theme, which is a good thing. I've talked to you over the years about how golf is a mental game, which you have trouble understanding, but how much it came into clear focus this week with a story about Bryson DeChambeau. Now, Bryson DeChambeau is one of the new hopes in golf, new exciting player. He brought a whole new thinking to golf. He's called the scientist for his analytical approach, his sort of sabermetrics. He bulked up, which goes against what you think would go for golf. He changed his clubs, changed the type of shafts. But he didn't do well in the Masters. After winning the U.S. Open, he did terribly in the Masters. He said he wasn't feeling well. He had dizziness, and everybody's wondering why. He did tests. He passed the COVID test. Well, he finally found out his dizzy spells were a result of what he called his crazy overworking brain. That basically he was out there in the tournament. He was spending too much time thinking about the game, thinking what was going on, and the frontal lobe of his mind was working actually exhausting. So if you're wondering, what's going to happen in the future, maybe Bryson DeChambeau has to think a little less in golf, a thinking man's game.
All right, AJ Carter with his Sunday papers. All right, so like I said, keep it tuned right here because right after us, I'm going to get out of this seat. Brett Topel is going to be here with his great show, BT Talks Baseball, followed then by Carpin's Corner, then Rich Catino's Mets Clubhouse Confidential, and then all night long vintage hockey. So appreciate it. We'll see everyone next week. Have a great one, everybody.